Greetings. Welcome to the first episode of Reiki Rock Stars. And I am Geordie Numata. Some of you know me, but I am a New York City Reiki teacher and astrologer. And I'm going to start this series I'm calling Reiki Rock Stars because I've been teaching for about 20 years. I started teaching in 2006 at Madison Wellness Center, very well-known Madison Wellness Center. And I was there for 11 years. And now I'm at Moxi Wellness Center in Soho, which is a beautiful spot. And that's where I don't teach there. I teach online now. But since the pandemic, I had to really, to this day, I'm still doing a lot of my work remotely, which has its advantages. But I have Jessica Sarter with me, who's one of my very early students back in 2008. And she is a Reiki rock star. So I am so super excited to have her be the first guest in this series. And I want to introduce her to you. Here she is, Jessica Sarter, the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented, the amazing Jessica Sarter, who is like a world-class Reiki rock star. And so can you share with us a little bit first about just your journey with Reiki?
Sure. Well, like you said, so I took Reiki with you in 2008. I'd initially taken my first Reiki level 1 and 2 back in 2004. I would I'd actually met somebody who was a healer and, a very like a healer. And, it wasn't something he was doing as a profession or anything like that. It's just what he was. And I was so, blown away by some of the experiences I had with him. And
Oh,
what's
and
that?
you're getting Reiki from him?
No, it was just energy work. I don't even know what we would call it because he didn't even have he just was, you know what I mean? Like he didn't call himself a shaman. He didn't call himself a this or that. This was also, he just had an ability to heal. I really don't know how else to explain it.
Did he
Yeah.
do it with touch?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And uh, he was a brother of somebody I was close to. So, it all happened very organically. Like I wasn't seeking it out or, it was just like, this is my brother and this is what he does, and it was, for him, I think probably it was a blessing and a curse, in some ways, like, cause he was still very young, trying to learn how to grapple and deal with all of that. But, it was also very beautiful and powerful. But his biggest lesson was that of like, hey, yes, I can do things that most people can't, but we all have this ability. He's like, you have this, my brother has this, we all have this. And so kind of from that, I started investigating energy work and kind of going into that path. And that's how I landed into Reiki. And so I did that in 2004, level 1, level 2.
Do you remember the name of was that in New York City?
Yep, it was
That's
Anna Gonzalez. What was it? Anna and I have their names
Anna
on.
and Carlos?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
you know them?
I'm
It was
getting
in Brooklyn.
goosebumps.
What's that?
Getting goosebumps all over.
Really? So obviously you knew them. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I took level 3 in master teacher with Carlos.
Get out. Oh, that's so
Yeah,
funny. I can't believe I don't think
yeah.
you
And
ever
I
talked about
actually
that.
I kind of, he did a lot of teaching and he taught
Yeah.
thousands of people and he passed away about 10 years ago, I think. But and Anna, they were like legendary,
They were
you
amazing.
know. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, she was just mostly treating people, and they lived out on near the border of Long Island or
hmm
something like that. Did you ever go to their place and get treated
Yeah,
by
the
her?
trainings were they're at their house. I believe it was New Hyde Park, I want to say, but I'm not sure. But the training was like was at their house.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so sweet.
I feel very fortunate to have trained with Carlos,
Yeah, they were incredible.
and
I loved it. Yeah,
they
it was
were
very powerful.
ICRT certified. I
Mhm.
think it was Laurel Shantigaya that they got initiated. And they back in the 90s, when before Reiki even got popular, and he was like a really hardcore Christian.
Yeah, I remember them
He
saying
said that his son, when they went to church, his son would get the Holy Spirit and he would touch you and you just, get like totally blissed out. Yeah, they were very, very beautiful people.
yeah, yeah, it was an incredible experience. Yeah, I loved it and I was, very into it. And then, life happens or whatever. I was very in it for that period. And then, you know, things change, you break up with people, like life changes and I just started kind of
Yeah,
veering off. And then, it was always in the back of my mind, once you're attuned, you're attuned. And so I would still have, these experiences and stuff, but I kind of definitely, was trying to also build my adult life and all of those things. So kind of veered off, but then always wanted to come back. And then I did in 2004. And that's when I took, I wanted to start with levels one again. I wanted to go all the way through with one teacher. And after researching and speaking around and, looking into it, that's how I ended up with you. And then, that's when we went through that process again at Madison Wellness Center, which is funny
yeah,
to hear you say that because, like, wow.
yeah, yeah. That place is legendary, and
Yeah, yeah, that's a
you
throwback.
know, I have a photograph of Pat and Glenn on my wall, and
Yeah.
they do you know what happened to them? Because
Mm-mm.
it's really like crazy. Um, Now this was in 2017. They jumped out of the ninth floor window of Madison Wellness to their death. Yeah, and it was in the news all over the world.
I feel like I do recall, like, now as you say that, like,
Yeah,
you telling us,
yeah,
or yeah,
yeah. I don't
why?
want to go too deep into that, but that
Right.
was devastating for me
Of course.
because I was like very close with them, and there was no warning. But they were in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and they were coming after him. They were going to take away his chiropractic license, and and they just checked out. And I hired a very good medium to talk to them, and they said, yeah, we thought about this. We probably could have worked out something with the debt, but we decided to make a statement. And that's all I want to say about that. But
Yeah.
I mean, if they were still alive, I'd still be there because that was my home
Sure.
base. I did
Yep.
everything there,
That was
and they were
100%.
angels. They were
Mm-hmm.
angels like you. They were angels. And yeah, this is my new thing. If I have my own modality that's a branch off of the main Reiki tree, and it's called Angelic Liquid Light Healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of given this modality by spirit, um, and it just kind of happened to me. And then I started realizing that we are angels, and you know, and one of my favorite teachers said that 30% of the people on earth are angels, and we're here to learn to be spirit guides for human beings. And so if you're like Jessica and I, where you just want to help people, and that's your main concern, and you're an intuitive empath, and you're a HSP, highly sensitive person, you're probably an angel. Um, and it's like we don't have wings, or we're not like cute little depictions. Angels are really what we are beings, light beings that are very comfortable being light beings, and we're very comfortable living in the higher dimensions. And we got the call to come here and be of service on Earth. And that's why we feel like we're aliens, we feel alienated. And there's always this feeling like there's something different about us. And often we get labeled as that there's something wrong with us, you know. So but Jessica is the type of person that, now correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you ever really had that problem in life of like an identity crisis or an addiction or you know, or a dark night of the soul where you had to battle some sort of inner demon, or did you?
Oh, yes, very much, very
Oh,
much. Absolutely. Yes, I've definitely, you know, battled demons. I've definitely battled addiction in multiple forms, you know, with eating disorders when I was younger, drug addiction, you know, and probably, you know, if you get really granular, like, you know, addictive thought patterns and things like that. But I've definitely like been in some real darkness in
Yeah.
my life, like
Yeah.
to a dangerous level for sure.
I'm actually surprised to hear that because, uh, we were talking before we actually started recording this,
Mhm.
and we were talking about how when I gave you an astrology reading, I was kind of probing. Jessica has Uranus conjunct her moon, which makes her a high priestess, and but Uranian people tend to live outside the box, and if they're not really spiritually awakened to who they really are, uh, and this is my story too. I mean, my life, I have been homeless. I've been out with addiction. I've had identity crisis. All kinds of stuff. But that's typical of people like us. And the problem is that we forgot who we really were when we were incarnated. Then we got caught up in all this bullshit, and hurt ourselves and hurt other people and stuff. But you are so beautiful. Your energy is so pure and so beautiful that when I got to know you, maybe you had worked through some of that stuff, or yeah.
Yeah,
And
and yeah,
but the other thing, let me say this. This is my tendency is just to see the beauty of it. And you shine very brightly. Look at this woman. She's just like an angel, but thank you for sharing that. That takes courage, and but it's important for people to hear that, you know, that if you're going through stuff like this, there is a solution, and it is spirituality, you know. So, but now tell me this. So my story is that when I when I got in recovery, when I got the addiction thing straightened out, I got in recovery. I took Reiki training. It was like I started a whole new life,
Mhm.
and it's been like beyond my wildest dreams, you know. So there's actually a very clear borderline in my life before Reiki and after Reiki,
Right.
and so you're shaking your head. Yes, would you agree with that for your story?
No, I understand that as yours because I recall you sharing that even when I met you, you know, long ago. For me, no, I wouldn't say there's like it didn't all shift. I kind of feel I was like running like probably up until like the last 2 years, I've been running like two parallel lives. You know, the spiritual life, that awaken, the exploring all of this and bringing all this to people, but then also, you know, the you know, survival state and the you know, falling into, you know, bad patterns. And it doesn't have to be like I'm talking about like drug addiction, you know, just like ways of thinking, ways of interacting with people, repeat, you know, that kind of stuff. Um, and I think even like as I embraced Reiki, you know, I think especially early on because um, it wasn't like I think you alluded to this before, like it wasn't very popular like when I started, right? Even more, even less so when you started. People knew it, or some people knew it. Like now you can just say Reiki anywhere, like anywhere.
Yeah.
It's fine, you know. Like everybody, it seems, has had a treatment or knows somebody who has it. There's nothing. I think at that time, you know, I didn't have like the self-confidence that I have today. I mean, we're talking about like 20 years ago, you know, I didn't have the self-confidence that I had today to say things that would make like I liked being different, yet I was also scared to be different in some ways, especially
Yeah.
like this way. You know, I was proud of it within certain groups, but I couldn't just take it in front of anybody, where like today I can just say this is who I am and I'm okay. And so I think I held a lot in for a very long time because I didn't feel like it, as much as I wanted to put myself out there, I was internal, like subconsciously always holding myself back.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Um, but the other reason that I wanted to do the first episode with you is that I've seen what you're doing with Kundalini Yoga now, and it's just amazing. I mean, you and I, you know, I haven't been in touch with you for quite a while, and then all of a sudden you're posting online. I'm saying, oh my God, she got trained to teach Kundalini Yoga, which is, you know, if you get trained to teach Kundalini Yoga, it's not like, oh, I'm 200 hours certified to teach Vinyasa. The the Kundalini is like a whole nother
It's
thing,
intense.
much more intense, and now it's like, wow, Jessica's teaching Kundalini yoga now. And you were doing stuff in Long Beach, and like TJ and I are like Long Beach like addicts. We love Long Beach, and
That's
she
right. I
lived
remember
there.
you saying that. Yes.
Yeah, she lived there, and when she was working for Versace in New York City, and would commute like an hour and a half each way and everything. And we go to Long Beach whenever we can. We might go Sunday because
Such a great town.
it's supposed to be like 78 degrees, and
Yeah.
we want to get in like that last beach day. But yeah, I was really excited, and that's and then I started thinking, I should probably get Jessica to do my Reiki Rockstar series. But I also wanted to talk about your cat rescue, um, not cat rescue, but cat colony, because you were running that cat colony, right? That was your project, right?
Yes.
And that was
Yes.
quite a while ago. And
Yeah.
you wrote an article about it for my newsletter. You know,
Oh,
you
yes.
Yeah, you wrote an article about that for me, and I was like, I mean, can you tell us about that? Because that's like one of the big victories in your life.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So, for a lot of people, just to give context, there are a lot of homeless cats on the streets, and there are definitely a lot of homeless cats on the streets in New York. I mean, you'll find that in most major cities. Um, for me, it really started, I mean, I guess this was maybe like 11 years ago. It really all started with me responding to a volunteer ad. I just moved to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and was just kind of like trying to find my way around the neighborhood. I'd been living in the city for years before that. And, I just saw this little poster like, would you like to help feed homeless cats? And I was like, oh, this looks cute, and sure, I can go do that. And so, it was you basically just went and fed these cats like one day a week. Everybody had a shift. They were homeless cats that lived by the pier in Greenpoint, a neighboring neighborhood. And it was just like a sweet little thing to do. And I was like, this is nice.
But
And
but do you have your own cats, or do you have a history with? Are you a cat
no,
lover?
I didn't have like any experience. Yes, so at that time I did not have. No, I didn't. We did have pets. Sorry, we had two cats at that time. Um, yes, but I did not have like any history as I was not like what you would call like an animal person, like, and which would, as like my journey with other things changed too. Like it's much different than how people perceive me today. Like I did not have like any prior to the two pets my husband and I had adopted at that time, who were probably like 3 years, 4 years old. Like I had pets growing up like everybody, but I wasn't, like, and
Wasn't like a big cause that you were involved
no, no,
in.
no. Yeah. Well, not even close. I was just like, oh, this seems like a nice thing to be a part of, in the neighborhood. Like it could have been, I would also, I mean, you've said like it could have been like volunteer at a community garden, and like I would have done that if that's what the poster probably said, like, but as fate would have it, I chose this one. And, as I started doing this, I learned from this woman who put together this volunteer group, that there were, especially in Greenpoint, there were so many abandoned warehouses and buildings that there were all these cats living there, and none of them were fixed. They were just reproducing. And so there were just so many homeless cats out on the street. And Yeah, I just kind of saw from her like how she was organizing these groups and everything. Um, and it was just weird. I just remember hearing somebody say, you start to fall in love with the animals. You become attached. You understand, of course, that they are, individuals, and some are affectionate, some are not. But all,
Yeah,
just
I
very.
remember, you would put it out to the community that there was a cat that was really sick, and
Mhm.
I would put it on my distant healing list for my big distant healing events and
Yes,
stuff.
yes,
Yeah,
you did. Yep.
yeah. And
Yeah.
by the way, I am really a cat guy, 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Which
yeah,
is always a good
yeah,
sign.
yeah. I really cats are very, very special to me. I'm a Leo,
Oh,
but yeah. So I mean that really turned into something pretty big.
yeah,
And how did you get to the point where you were actually took the reins
yeah.
and were running the thing?
I heard about, that there was a group of cats like a couple blocks away that, nobody was taking care of, or the owner disappeared. Um, and so I rode my bike over there one day, and I could see all the little shelters that were there. You could tell somebody had been caring for them. And I like got off my bike, and I'll never forget like walking over to like examine closer, and like it was like 13 to 17 cats just came running out, and meowing, and they were starving. And I was just like completely overwhelmed. I gave them food. Um, and I was just completely overwhelmed by the experience. I mean, I was so like heartbroken. So I remember speaking to the other volunteers and saying, this is going on, blah, blah, blah. But, other people have their own lives. They can't, whatever. So so I started feeding these animals. Like I couldn't get it out of my head. So like the way that they came out, right, was like so clear they were in need of care. And so I started going there and feeding them. And just to keep this short, I understood that there was a person who had cared for them. She was no longer able to because she was older, and she was dealing with her father's illness. Um, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I was going there twice a day, coming back and forth, biking back and forth. And I was like, this is like, I can't, this isn't sustainable. They're like, I can't like pay this, not even just pay this much. Like, I don't have this much time to do this every day, but I couldn't ignore it either. And I literally remember standing on West Street, which at the time was just a complete abandoned street and now is filled with high rises. And I was just like, somebody's got to help these cats. Like, somebody's got to help these cats. And it just like, that's when it hit me. I was like,
What what was
it's,
the
it's
what was the
me.
that was in Williamsburg?
That was in Greenpoint.
Greenpoint, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And what was the corner? What was the address?
It was West Street, and Freeman. Yeah, we still have a couple shelters down there, just for interlopers now as we move most of them out. But yeah, so I had that aha moment, like, wait, this is me. Like, I'm the one who has to help them. And sometimes like sometimes like that can be a great moment, but it can also be like oh, holy crap,
Yeah.
like, wait,
Yeah.
I just wanted to like come by and be cute and feed like once a once a week.
Yeah.
So I kind of emulated what I'd seen the woman before, at the other colony do. And I made posters, and, this was, we weren't really like heavy social media at that time, and like, I was putting up posters all over Greenpoint, asking people, do you want to volunteer? Come feed cats. And slowly we started, I amassed a crew. We had 12 volunteers. Um, we made shelters for these cats out of big coolers. I met other people who do this kind of work, and luckily for me, a lot of these cats had already been neutered, so at least that was taken care of. But then became the problems of as cats got sick, or they got some of them, that's a hard life out there. So um, you would see one with a lot of injury, or a huge face is blown,
Yeah.
dental
I
work.
I don't know if this is true, but I have heard, I can't remember where I heard this from, is that most of those feral cats in the cities will live like 2 or 3 years, and that's about it.
Oh no, we definitely, ours were probably, I mean, I would say that 11, probably 11 or 12 was how old they were. I
They
mean,
could survive
yeah, we
that
had some
long?
old timers for sure. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing,
Yes.
Um,
Um,
but how do they, I mean, if they're not being fed, and I know a lot of people, they'll have in their backyard or something, they'll there'll be a cat and it's like, okay, we're gonna put out some food for it. But can they live just on like chasing mice and stuff?
yeah, I think, I mean, depending where they are, you know what I mean? Like where we were in Greenpoint really was like an area probably that had a lot of, ground creatures. Um,
Yeah,
but
because
yeah,
they're
it just depends where you are and
carnivores,
what you have access to, to be
They're,
honest. I mean,
they're
it's really
carnivores, they're
different everywhere.
predators, they need
Yes.
meat.
Yeah, and birds, which is a reason a lot of people
Oh,
don't like
birds,
cat
yeah,
colonies, because they'll go for birds.
yeah.
So, but they quickly adapted to being, regularly fed and as cats do, and then, want nothing else but, friskies. Um, so yeah, as time went on, we just like really developed this colony and it just became like really amazing. And I started like, Facebook and Instagram page for them, and it really became like a big part of the community. And I learned about fundraising. I learned about, how much money like an actual person like myself at that time, and many volunteers, many rescuers, way beyond what I was doing, you know, people spend a lot of their own money trying to save animals. And I am not somebody who just, has
Yeah,
money. And at that time, I certainly wasn't.
the
I was just a
cost,
regular person with a regular job.
yeah, I mean, our last cat Willow, who lived to be 18, um, just stopped eating and we thought, I mean, uh, the reason I'm mentioning this is I know that the veterinary care is very, very expensive. And how the hell are you going to be able to pay thousands of dollars for, a feral cat that broke its leg or got cancer or whatever? And so you were able to fundraise to cover medical expenses?
Yes, I eventually like realized or learned and helped with some guidance of a great organization called Greenpoint Cats, fundraising. And because it was just like, yeah, I can't just keep covering, but I was also just not comfortable. I didn't really know how to ask for money, which has always been an issue of mine personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So, it just wasn't something I was comfortable with. I was like, well, this is my problem, this is my thing, da da da. And you know, I came to realize that like by sharing these animal stories, people did care and people did want to help. And thankfully, we were able to, I mean, there's just, you've seen the different things that I've posted and we've gone through the years of like the injuries and illnesses and things that we've been able to treat and help animals recover from. It's been amazing.
But
It's
when
really
did
heartwarming.
when did the whole thing with the developer happen? I mean, you must have been pretty well along with your cat colony before the shit hit the fan with what is a vacant lot or something, and then
Yeah,
yeah,
so like I said, when we started like West Street, which is the main street they're on, and it's a big street in Greenpoint. At the time, it was just a very abandoned area, but it's right along the waterfront. Um, it was kind of a creepy area, to be honest. Like I remember like my nighttime feeders we'd be like, go with somebody else, don't, because we were primarily women, especially at that time. And so, there was always like call me if you're nervous, blah, blah, blah. But as that neighborhood began to develop more and more, I mean, you're on the waterfront, you're New York waterfront. Developers wanted to move in, and as they did, it became, yeah, the property that we were on, they wanted us, gone. And, we're after, and then so, which was a terrifying and very upsetting thing. And I got a call like that I had like 2 days to move everything out. And fortunately, a wonderful woman named Noah, who was doing this kind of work several blocks over, was able to connect me with, at the time, there was an organization called the Mayor's Alliance for Animals. And it was a part of the our city government that took care of like TNR and things like that that we no longer do anymore. And they
What?
helped, they helped me begin facilitating a conversation. Uh, Somewhere along the way here, we got the New York Times involved, and the New York Times came down to interview, to pick up this story about how like developers around Brooklyn, because it was happening also in other places, are pushing out these colonies, not working with people. And then you had somebody from the mayor's office who came and spoke like to it. It was so incredible. And as I say all this, I'm just like, wow, like it was so crazy how it all just like came together and happened. And, no surprise, once that was happening, they were then like willing to work with us. And not only were they willing to work with us, they gave us additional money so that we could get new shelters, and they like suddenly supported us. And there were several times that we had to kind of move the colony, like, you know, 20 yards this way, 20 that, as things were building. But, they were alerting me and letting me keep things there. I wasn't worried anymore that it was going to just be gone one day, which was a very legitimate fear for a while. It was great. It was crazy though. Like I still can't believe it. Like as I
Yeah.
say it now, and that's like, you want to talk about angels. Like I had just like that woman Noah, like people just suddenly like appeared that were able to get me where I could not have gotten myself.
And that's something phenomena like that, like the way I was able to, you know, do international Reiki and ear acupuncture and Guatemala, which is a deeply traumatized. I mean, it's like beyond my wildest dreams, and I attribute that not just to being in recovery from the whole addiction thing, but Reiki. Reiki really, you go through those attunements, you're different. That really clears a lot of conditioning out of your system, especially if you go through all four levels, and which you did with me, right up to the Reiki Master Teacher level, and that is the ICRT lineage with William Lee Rand, and I use their manuals, and also, um, uh, Jessica's first teacher, Anna Gonzalez, and her husband, Carlos Gonzalez. They were legendary. They were just incredible people. They trained thousands of people over 20, 25 years, and they had people coming from different countries. I mean, one of my students said that she took 1 and 2 with Carlos, and then there were 60 people in the class. And
Wow.
she wanted to take it again with me because she said it was like too many people.
Yeah, I could
And
see that.
like my rule is like I don't like to have more than 9 people in my class because it becomes very impersonal. And teaching Reiki is a very personal thing. You're attuning people, you're touching people, and you're drawing the Reiki symbols over them, and you're giving them this blessing, this activation that is life changing. And I don't hold that against Carlos and Anna at all. They're incredible people. They taught a lot of people, but some people just prefer a more intimate experience, and that's something that I provide. And I like to be able to interact with all my different students. And but Carlos had, I know Carlos. He probably had like 15 of his students helping him attune all 60 people. But yeah, I really wanted to have you share about your cat colony because I was so impressed with the work that you did and getting, you know, the way that you handled that and got the help and just reversed the whole situation, and was beautiful. And that's a testament to your own commitment and your own belief and just compassion and doing the right thing and speaking truth to power and standing up for your beliefs. And it's just like, I mean, you are a Reiki rock star. You really are.
Thank
And
you.
it's but what I'd like to hear about now is what you're doing now, and how did you get started with Kundalini, And were you doing it in with one of the teachers in Manhattan, the Golden Bridge, or the guy on Union Square, or where did you get your first classes and training?
So I did. So I started taking Kundalini at Golden Bridge years ago when I lived in I think when I lived in Manhattan. So yes, I would take it there, and I would also take it at another place called Rama on the Lower East Side, and just like I'll never forget my first experience going because it just it was like getting an attunement, like in a different it was just that kind of that big of a moment for me. Um,
What
and
was your
then
first class at Golden Bridge?
yes,
Yeah.
yep.
And
Yep.
just for the audience's information, that's down in Lower Manhattan in um was that it's in Soho. It's down at
Yeah, I
kind
would
of the border
say
of Chinatown and
closer
Soho.
to, yeah, a little further up, I feel like. I'm trying to remember which street it was on.
I don't
Gosh, it's
remember
a
the
million
name of
years
that
ago.
street. Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
yes, it was on the downtown. Yeah, little past Union Square, moving down that way.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and so I just, something I loved and I, would just kind of come back to in and out throughout life. Yeah, I mean, this was many years ago. And then I did my training at Kundalini Yoga East, which is also in Union Square and is one of the oldest Kundalini. There were only several like true Kundalini
Oh,
studios
that's there's a
by
guy
19th
with
Street.
the guy with the beard or the
Mhm.
yeah, that's where TJ used to go.
Okay.
My
Oh,
partner
okay.
TJ used
Yeah.
to do her classes there, and yeah, and she you know the funny thing is that when I in between high school and college, I was playing in bands. That was a big deal for me. I was like wanted to be a rock star when I was young. I was the hippie with the long hair and smoking weed, and, you know, and we our band, the guy that managed our band, his name was Billy Jade. He was like, I want to go to the Kundalini Yoga convention in New Mexico. And a bunch of us got in my friend Danny's old Volvo, and we drove all the way out to Mexico. And what's his name? Um, the founder's name just slips my mind right now. He was there, and he was kind of young. This is in 1970,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay. I see where you're, okay. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yogi Bhajan,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yogi Bhajan,
Wow. Okay.
and we were up in the Indian Reservation, north of in northern up in the mountains in northern New Mexico, and and he we were doing Breath of Fire and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was just like a young hippie kid, and I was sneaking out in the woods and smoking weed and stuff. But that was our experience, and we were exposed to that. And then when I got together with TJ, she was like, "Yeah, I'll do Kundalini yoga." And when she was working in Italy, she went to retreat, Kundalini yoga retreat in France, and she did some really hardcore yoga with her yoga teachers. And then and in New York City, she went to the guy on Union Square, you know,
Mhm.
and his
Yeah.
studio is upstairs in that building, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe they're still there.
Green
So,
carpet. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's still, yeah, that's wild.
So,
Um,
so you got your teacher training there in Union
yes.
Square.
Yes. And
Yeah.
some of them were, yes, directly taught by Yogi Bhajan. Yeah, and I think that just came from I really got immersed in it. I think I just kind of went through a period of I guess you could say darkness, and I was just really trying to find something new to something to focus on and something to like help me, move through time. And I don't know what popped it into my head, but I saw something about Kundalini yoga teacher training, and I was just like, yes, like I can do that. Like that's what I want to do. And I didn't have it fully in mind, like I'm going to be a yoga teacher. I was just like, I want to go through this training regardless. Like, I want this process. This is like over 8 or 9 months. Like, I want this just for myself. As you know, I love trainings and learning and all of that. And I think it's funny because all throughout that process, I was very non-committal on the teacher thing. And I really didn't see myself fully on with the teaching. Like, there's like a confidence that has to come with that, right? And as you
Yeah.
said, I mean, Kundalini is like, it's intense. Like, I was just like, I can't lead that, and I've gone through other incredible training, like my Reiki training. I've gone through, 9 months of coaching training. Like, I've done these great things, but never felt fully confident to then just be like, here's what I do and pay me for it, to
Yeah.
be, and I think that's where a lot of people can, get a hiccup. Um, and so I went through the training, and I don't know, Geordie, like what happened when I came out of it or what, but I was just like, I liked when I would practice doing the practice teaching with the students. Like, I liked sitting in front of the group. I felt right. And there have been times in my life I could look back and remember even being at like a Buddhist meditation or something and seeing my teacher in front of me and thinking, I would like to be there, or I could do that. But like fleeting,
Yeah.
it's one of those you see it in retrospect.
Yeah. One of the biggest lessons in my life is that when you really admire somebody and you look up to them, you have that too within you. That's why you admire it so much. That's the potential that you have, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's very important. I tell my students and my clients, it's like, oh, you admire me, and well, that's because you're a lot like me, and you can do this too. Um, but yeah, admiration is a beautiful thing, and to be inspired and to be influenced and to have a role model. We all need that. But at a certain point, hopefully you can step into that role yourself. And by the way, as a Uranian person, that's something that is such a good fit for you because Uranus is about freedom. It is about higher consciousness. It is about altruism and making a difference in the world and helping people to break out of their bonds. Whatever the rut you're in, Uranus is that energy that frees you up. And so you're the type of angel that, like, you just you have that gift, you have that talent, you can help people free themselves up from whatever it is that is blocking them. And then you'll probably train teachers too one day. I wouldn't be surprised if you do. But yeah, when I saw that you were leading events and stuff, I was like, it was just like, I was so happy for you, and teaching and leading classes and doing your events. And it's like, yeah, I could see how much you were enjoying it too, you know.
Yeah.
But do you now, would you mind telling me how old you are? Because I don't have any idea how old you
Yeah.
are. I can't.
No, I'm 48.
Oh, okay. So you're beginning to go through your Chiron return. And that's a
Okay. Tell me
that's a
more.
very big deal in astrology. And by the way, when I went through my Chiron return, that was my healing crisis over addiction. And I did get the healing, and then I was able to step into my own power, which it took me a few years to get the Reiki training. But I'll tell you something, like my how I was led to Reiki was I was in early recovery. I was doing a lot of 12-step, I was going all the way with 12-step thing. And I was reading all kinds of spiritual stuff. And one of the books was a book by, uh, what's her name? She was the wife of Rock Scully, who was the tour manager for the Grateful Dead. And can't remember her first name, but was a book called Alchemical Healing. And in the first chapter, she said, well, when the dead were on tour, I would like the kids that were freaking out and having bad acid trips, I'd calm them down, and I knew that I was a healer. But the first thing that I actually had training in was Reiki. And I was like, oh, Reiki. Oh, so it's a Japanese healing touch thing, and your hands warm up, and it's like, and to this day, Jessica, I never read the rest of the book.
Wow.
At the time, I was practicing meditation, which I had my own kind of a half-ass meditation practice my whole life, even through the depths of addiction with homelessness and everything, I was still meditating. But I've been meditating, and I've been doing like qigong and stuff, and I had noticed that my hands there was energy in my hands, and then I read about Reiki, and I never read the rest of the book. I was just supposed to have that book to find out about Reiki. I'd never heard of Reiki. It's Japanese, and I'm part Japanese. My father was half Japanese, so I asked for a sign. I asked Spirit for a sign, and I went to a 12-step meeting, and one that I went to on a regular basis. And this strange woman walks in. This is like 2 weeks after I asked for the sign, and I read that chapter of the book. Strange woman walks in. She sits down, and it was a round robin thing where you get to share. Everybody got to share in a circle. And when it was her turn, she said, well, I don't come to meetings in Manhattan anymore because I live in New Jersey and I do my meetings there. But I happen to be on the Upper West Side to get my level 2 Reiki training from my teacher. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
So that was like right in my face. It's like,
Yeah,
you're interested in Reiki? Here you go. There you go, Geordie. Go talk
that's
to her.
awesome.
And she said, yeah, just go to my teacher's Reiki circle on Monday night. And you know what? I do a free conference call Reiki circle every Monday night now that I started during the pandemic, 7 to 8 o'clock. It's free, but you can donate if you want. But I do a lot of free stuff. That's a big part of what I do.
Yes, you do.
But that is how I found Reiki. And I found Louisiana Zen, who was a very well-known Reiki teacher back in the 90s. And she had lots of students. And she had a big Reiki circle at TRS. And TRS was like the place that everybody, TRS is, unfortunately, they bit the dust during the pandemic, and they had moved down to the financial district, and they just couldn't survive. And but because of the pandemic, but they were the first place in Manhattan where a healer could go and rent a space by the hour. Nobody else had done that, and that was back in the 90s, and then everybody else started doing it. But I went to a circle at TRS. I got my first treatment from one of her students, and it was, I can't remember her name, but she was African American, and she was a teacher in the public school system. And after that first treatment, I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going all the way with this.
Right.
Nothing can stop me. And the rest is history. And then I found Madison Wellness Center. Now that same woman that came to the meeting and said that she was just in town to get Reiki training, she brought me to Madison Wellness Center and introduced me to Pat and Glenn. And I talked to Patricia for like 10 minutes and said, okay, you can do your Reiki circle here.
Wow.
See,
That's amazing.
it's just some guy that came in
Yeah.
off the street.
Yeah.
And I ended up being there for 11 years, and I was like part of their family practically.
Yeah.
But, it's like when you have a passion and you believe in yourself, and it's like things just kind of work out for you, and when, like, my feeling of like, not that I'm going to do Reiki, I'm going to teach Reiki, I'm going to treat people. I just knew I was going to do it. There's nothing that could have stopped me.
Yeah.
And when I told my friends and my parents, they're like, Reiki, what the hell is that? You should probably just get a real job, like with benefits and stuff. I didn't listen to them. It's like,
Yeah.
and then once I got successful, everybody's like, wow, it's so great that you're doing that,
Of
but
course.
I
Right.
didn't get any support, but
Yeah.
I felt the calling deep in my heart and deep in my soul, because that's what I was always meant to be. everything in my life, all my experiences, even the being homeless and you know, like being, I mean, I was like deeply in the grips of addiction because I couldn't figure out a way to be who I was and to do what I love to do. You know, I couldn't make money as a rock and roll, you know, musician and stuff. And, you know, that constant feeling of alienation and not fitting in. Um, Finally, I found something that enabled me to fit in and do, you know, use my talents and abilities and make a difference in the world and have fulfillment on a level that I could never have even have dreamt what I've been able to do, you know. And but yeah, Chiron return is a big deal. You know, it's and I've counseled many people going through Chiron return, and you are, you know, for me, there was a disease I had. The disease was addiction, and I had a healing crisis over that, and I got through that. But for you, um, how's it been for you? I mean, you're going through your Chiron return, and you're you're making it look easy as far as I can see. Oh, you're having a blast.
No, it's been a really good period. I feel like, um, I guess kind of like you said, all the like I feel like I've been training and learning things forever, right? Like even before the Reiki, like I was, you know, what even ever opened this door for me was like I became really fascinated with psychology, you know, and that whole process, which led to, you know, different the energy, you know, all these other, it was just one thing to another, always like in search of really two things. I think one, how to help other people. And at that time, there were particular people in my life that I wanted to find the answer to. Now, was I thinking that super consciously? No, but I was
Um,
looking, right?
were
Um,
you were you going through psychotherapy at certain points in your life?
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
later, absolutely. Yes. And yeah, and I was looking for ways to heal like my own trauma. Yeah, and then later I had amazing therapists who completely broke down doors and opened up possibilities and helped me move through, um, you know, helped me see. There's so much that we don't even, you know, I think that's sometimes what's so hard when you want to help people is sometimes like they don't even see, they don't even know that they're in a box and you can tell them or a
Right.
glass, but you know, and you and so and I didn't know how much of a my prison of my own making, you know, I was in. Um, and she helped me see that. And
Yeah.
she was incredible. She is incredible. And without that, yes, I mean that set the stage for me to do, you know, I mean, not just like this kind of work, but just also like be a person and, you know, move through life. I'm not saying it's made me perfect or anything, because I definitely have gone through many lapses in judgment and self-care, you know, throughout my journey. You know,
Yeah, but you know, one thing that, and this is through going through 12 step, I realize, and not everybody gets this right away, but I realize that I'm not going to beat up myself for what I think is like total failure of as being a human being on earth.
right.
I realize that every single choice I made and every experience I had is part of my spiritual path.
Yeah.
You know, it was all meant to happen. And a lot of it's just learning what doesn't work, you know, and being really clear about that, you know, and then and learning what does work. And it's like exploring the polarities of good and bad and what works and what doesn't work, what hurts and what doesn't hurt, you know, how to get your needs met and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, and by the way, Chiron is known, um, there's more to it than just the wounded healer archetype, but it's really is the wounded healer archetype because that tends to be the process which is going through the dark night of the soul, battling your demons, you know, and eventually becoming victorious. And then you, and you know, the upside of Chiron is that is is the archetype of where your magic is in your life. And everybody has a unique style, a unique flavor of magic that you have, that you can give to the world to make a difference in the world. And so, going through your karma return, that's a big part of that, is like, and here you are, you're emerging to share your magic, which is the Jessica Sarter magic. Nobody else can do that. Only you can do the Jessica Sarter magic. You've been influenced by different teachers, me and your therapist and that, but now you step into your own power as a angel, and angels are just people that, like, we are service oriented. We want to be of service in the world. We want to provide services that help people, that heal people, that free people up, that inform people, that liberate people. And that, to me, that's the only game in town. That's what really matters.
Yes.
I think everybody understands that deep down inside, whether you
Right.
get that from Boy Scouts or your church, or maybe you just had good parents that had humanitarian values.
Sure.
It's not like we're doing it's this weird kind of outside the weird thing. No, we're just being good people, and it's not about perfection. I mean, I still make mistakes. I still act out sometimes, but not nearly as much as I used to. It's like
Right.
I am. My thing now is like I can honestly tell people, and I'm saying this out loud to whoever's listening. At 73 years old, I am the happiest and healthiest I've ever been in my
Oh,
life.
love that.
For real.
I love
Absolutely.
that. Yeah,
You know,
that's
and
so
I'm
inspiring.
constantly learning too. Like I'm like a age reversal guy. I can tell you about like how you can stop the aging process and even reverse your age. That's possible. You can do it. But most people don't want to give up their get out of their comfort zone,
Right.
which has become very uncomfortable because it's scary for them. But yeah, it's like, see, if you believe you can do something, no matter how outrageous it sounds, you believe deep in your heart and soul you can do something. And for me, it's like, I want to live to be 120 years old at least, and you can just kind of laugh at that, but you know what? It's like, I might be able to say, I told you so.
Sure.
But that's the way I roll. It's like I wanted to do international healing work, and it just literally fell in my lap.
Yeah.
You know, it was given to me, and Spirit said, "Oh, you want to do that? Here, this is how you're going to do it." And I got to do it, and it was beyond. I mean, we were working with Mayan elders and doing ceremonies at the pyramids and Tikal, and just you can't make this stuff up. But once and this is all like after 50 years of age, my life just started to blossom, like open up like a lotus flower or something. Um, so yeah, I'm not retiring and ever. It's like
No,
I,
I can certainly, yeah, I can see
I
that.
love doing this work so much that it's not like oh, I don't have to do that job anymore. No, no,
Right.
I want to keep doing it even better, you know. And but so let's hear more about what you're doing now, and how your Kundalini teaching Kundalini yoga. What does that look like?
Sure.
Do you teach like a couple times a week, or
Yeah, I
and
do a
where?
couple different things. The first kind of job that I got out of this was was from an instructor who referred me to his sister-in-law who has a place in Long Beach. And, I'd reached out to her and was like, hey, I just finished my training. And, if you're looking, she also taught Kundalini, or she does teach Kundalini. And I was like, if you need an extra instructor, I live on Long Island. I'm nowhere close to there, but I was like, I'd be happy to join. And it was funny because like I knew the place and I'd been there only one other time before. And it was actually a year prior when I took a Kundalini class there. And it happened to be with people who would later be my instructors. But at that time, I would have never imagined that I would one day be training under those people or ever coming back to that space again. So anyway, she's like, we don't have anything right now, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And, this was May, I just graduated. And then towards the end of the summer, she reached out to me and said, we're hiring new teachers. She's like, would you like to teach in the salt cave? Which is this awesome room that they have. There's beautiful pink Himalayan salt cave where they like pump salts, micro particles of salt into the air.
Yeah,
And
I've been in,
yeah,
I've been in,
it's gorgeous. They're
there's
so
a
great.
place in
Yeah.
Midtown where we go called Chill Space, and they have the
Mhm.
salt room, and then they give you a PEMF mat. And
Nice. Yeah.
PEMF
Yeah.
therapy is amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's, but also, and I have a story. I'll try to keep this short because I want to hear mostly from you. But long story short, TJ and I are on vacation. This was like 3 or 4 years ago in Montauk, to kind of the tail end of the pandemic. And we were like, oh, let's go to this yoga class in the salt room. And we did. And I and it was just us two, and there's this beautiful young teacher. And we're doing the asanas and everything. And it was all pretty easy for me because I don't practice yoga on a daily basis or anything.
Right.
But then we did an asana and we were standing up, and all of a sudden my knees started wiggling, and I was like, "Oh, this is trauma release. Here we go." I know that the salt played a big role in that,
Right.
made that yoga class more intense because salt is like a sacred substance. It's
Mm.
crystalline, you know, and also it's very grounding. But yeah, I mean that experience changed my life, and everything was different, and that totally changed my relationship with TJ because there was all
Wow.
this old codependent crap that just wasn't there anymore. That I just
Wow.
literally in like 20 seconds of just shaking, you
Yeah.
know. And that is one of the most natural, spontaneous ways you can release trauma is this shaking. And that's and a friend now my logo, my branding is deer, and that's from shamanism, Deer is a very special power animal in shamanism. It has to do with love and grace and beauty and connection with the spirit world and mysticism and everything. But and a shaman friend of mine was just in town the other day, and this is Roman Hannes, who's really very well known, and he has Paititi Institute in Peru, and that's where we went with Healer to Healer to experience the plant medicine and to do free clinics there and everything. This is back in 2011. But he said, "Did you know that deer are, they have one of the most predated, is that the right word? Anyway, there's a lot of animals feed on deer, and that's always been the story with them. But also, they're one of the calmest and like calm and cool animals in the world, and they have this beautiful, graceful energy that's very spiritual. But when after they've been chased, by a predator and get onto safe ground, they'll just shake off the trauma. And so I didn't know that, and I'm like
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
a deer medicine shaman basically. I mean, I have like a deer rattle and everything, but it that's the shaking medicine. And if you're interested in shaking medicine, you got to read the work of Bradford Keeney. And he is amazing, and he's a very prolific author. Work with the Bushman tribe in Africa. And the Bushman tribe in Africa, their spirituality is they dance around the fire, and then the shamans go into a kind of ecstasy, and their hands heat up with Reiki. It's basically Reiki. Then they'll kind of grab you, and then they'll start shaking, and that'll just shake you into a higher state of consciousness. But so I want to hear the rest of the story about what you're doing now with Kundalini.
Yeah, so no, she just said, we have what I want to teach in the Salt Cave. And it was so funny because I had been approaching different places, never this one, in Long Island, because I wanted to offer Reiki in Salt Caves. This was before I was certified. So I was just looking for places to take my Reiki practice, and like I always wanted, like I saw myself doing that, though I really wanted to do that. So when she said that, I didn't even know there was a Salt Cave there. I'd been in that building, but in a different studio. So I was just like, are you kidding me? Yes. And then she just asked me like what kind of class I wanted to teach. And honestly, I felt, I said, I want to teach Kundalini. I said, but I feel that at least initially for me to meet people and build a following, I know like Kundalini is very specific and it's not for everybody. It's truly a yoga people like you either get it or you don't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you make weird faces, you make weird sounds, you do weird stuff with your body. It's a vibe. But
Yeah, and
you know,
it's not like a gentle, easy yoga.
no, 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 no.
Really
It's
pushes
not
you,
about
pushes
poses,
you to your
or
limits. Yeah.
flexibility. So I said to her, I said, I'd really like to kind of do a fusion class. Let me do some Kundalini. Let me do some Reiki on the students. It's a small space. You can only hold 10 people. And from there, she was just like, just go. And so from there, like, I really kind of created my own classes. And then you see my posts, like every week, I have a different theme of something I'm doing that we focus on. So, we can be doing all kinds of different work, whether it's, I don't know whether we're journaling or painting or candle gazing or, screaming at the top of our
And do,
lungs. Like I just do everything in there and it's so much
but
fun.
don't you have like a gong or you had
Yep. I
the
do
bowls
sound
and everything.
baths in there, so we bring
Yeah.
that. So that's amazing. And so from there, I started working with other studios around Long Island, just to not take up too much. But like I started, and then there's another place I teach just straight up Kundalini at. Well, it's not completely straight up because I do Kundalini, and then at the end I do sound bath with Reiki. It's an amazing place called Dreams West in Seacliff, which is just a totally magical. I wanted two home bases was my dream, like, because I have a full-time job as a sales manager. So I was just like, let me have two home bases where I teach that are like mine. And this other place came to me from a friend, it was just they both like it just happened when it was supposed to. And this is like a very magical place that it's part of a store that sells, all the fun, sage and all that kind of fun stuff. Um, and then my last like wish list item was to one day teach at the studio that I trained at, and where I could teach like very, classic Kundalini style, no fusions, but where people come for that, like, because again, like it's a thing, and it's hard. And you, I just wanted to teach somewhere where like you're sticking right with tradition. And, that opportunity came up like maybe 4 months ago, and I put my name in the ring and started teaching there. So now I teach in Union Square on Fridays at 4:30. Um, yeah, so it's amazing because I get to go to three different places that are like very different, very unique, but each elicit this like incredible feeling. Each is such
Yeah.
a vibe on its own, and each feels like a
Yeah.
different part of
Yeah.
me.
I
And
I
yeah,
I love
awesome.
how you're kind of customizing your practice and
Yeah,
keeping it really interesting and the variety and the music and yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
just
so fun.
amazing
It's
what you're
so fun.
doing. You get to be
Yeah.
really creative
Can you turn that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so fun.
I am in awe of you and it's it's just been great to sit down together and do this and
Oh,
share.
thank you so much. This has been so much fun. So
Yeah.
nice reconnecting with you too.
Yeah. So our links are down below and on my new YouTube channel. It's kind of my old YouTube channel, but
Refreshed.
I wasn't using it to really for this kind of work. I was just using it to I had a couple astrology videos and stuff, but now I'm gonna do the Reiki Rockstar series and all kinds of different interesting stuff. Not unlike what you're doing with your classes, and keep keep it going. I'll have different guests. At some points, I'll read from my favorite books, or I'll do a guided meditation, or I'll do distant Reiki, or I'll introduce you to Angelic Liquid Light Healing, my new modality, which is really taking off like a rocket now. But
Yes.
anyway, thank you, Jessica, and
Thank
thanks to
you.
all who are watching this. And we love you very, very much. And we hope that that you maybe you'll get interested in participating in our events, whatever. But now, do you offer Reiki sessions to people
Yeah,
privately?
I do. Yeah, and I also offer them. I do private sessions in the Salt Cave. I was gonna say, since I started
Wow.
teaching, it's so funny. My Reiki practice has like gone through because it's given me exposure to so many people. It's grown like exponentially, and it's so much
Wow.
fun.
See
Yeah,
that I didn't know that. I just
yeah, you're gonna see. I'm gonna
I just
post me getting ready for a session actually this week. I have a post where we put the massage table. You're in the salt cave, so it's just you and me. We're in there. You're breathing in the salt air. You're getting the Reiki treatment. Like, and
oh,
I bring in the sound instruments if people want that too. Like, it's the whole. It's awesome. Yeah.
I want a session with you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Y'all love Long
Yeah.
Beach. Come. Yes.
But that's in Long Island.
Yeah.
You live
Long
in Long
Beach. So
Island now,
I know
right?
you love the town. So you guys can come visit.
Oh man. Yeah, TJ and I'll come and to
Yeah,
retreat
I
by
love
you.
that.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, and boy, oh boy, I love you so much, and thank you so much for
Aw,
doing this with me. And you're like one of my main soul sisters. You really are. And
Geordie.
so yeah. So we're gonna say good night or good day to wherever you are in the world, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.